Some things have changed in Mathias, West Virginia, while others have remained the same. Wayne Strawderman continues to play his fiddle and mandolin with the same love and devotion for most of his 78 years. He was born and raised in Mathias, and his mother was a descendant of the Mathias family, which gave the community its namesake. Wayne has been a musical fixture in the Lost River Valley area, playing at fundraisers, lawn parties, nursing homes, fairs, and whatever other venue or occasion would benefit from good down-home bluegrass music. Outside of his family, music is the #1 thing in his life.
I'm a Mathias descendant. My mother was a Mathias. My granddaddy Mathias was a brother to the fellow that built these houses. I got 3 brothers and 2 sisters. There was 6 of us in the family. Ward and I were the closest. And when we went to school, we walked to school. But in the morning we'd get up and feed the animals, milk the cows, and take care of everything before we got our breakfast. And then we'd run to school to be there in time. And of evening when we got home, then there was cut wood, saw wood and all for the house and the chicken houses and all. We had a pretty hard life, but we made it. And my sister, younger sister, was close with us too, but she never was much for us boys, you see, all these games and stuff we played. You don't have any place in the old Cowboys and Indians for a girl. Then it got bigger. I started doing the plowing. I was the one that did most of it. We had a pair of mules that they bought up on the mountain, and I did all the plowing and cultivating. All 2 brothers was in the Army. So I did most of it myself, and I learned to use the horses, the mules, and all the farm equipment, and enjoyed every minute of it. Now, not at that time I didn't. And my parents, both, Dad and Mom both, were very, very hospitable, whatever you call it. And anyhow, there was no stranger ever come to the house. Anybody came in, they came in, they stayed overnight or whatever. And we had some people who weren't all up in society and so forth who would come in there and stayed, treated like everything. No charge, everything was free. Came in a very wonderful family. I'm proud of my parents. In fact, I'm proud of my whole family. Down at the blacksmith shop where my dad had was a stopping point. You know, in the blacksmith, all these teamsters that hauled through to the old tannery at Lost City and down through the baker, and they hauled supplies in for them, and then they hauled hides back to Broadway and shipped them on the train. Well, they always stopped there at the dad's shop. And if they stayed overnight, they came up home and stayed in the house. And then in the summertime, when people come back from Pennsylvania and everything for the reunion and all that they had back here, they stayed up home. We'd have the house full. Sometimes Ward and I would give up our bed and we'd sleep downstairs on the floor or something. But we enjoyed it. They always had a good time. My daddy was a blacksmith. He worked at the shop. And he was a hard-working man, and he'd work down there in the shop pounding iron all day long to be able to come up at dinner and eat his dinner. But he'd get up in the morning. Our breakfast was fried potatoes, gravy, and meat some kind, either fried fat back or ham or something. And he would eat heartily. Well, I didn't do so bad myself. But then he'd go out and he worked hard all day, come back up at dinner. She had cooked potatoes and cooked beans, and they had meat in that, sometimes fat meat, but he liked the fat meat as well as the lean. Ate that, but he went back out and worked it all off again. And then come evening, he'd come home, and of course we'd do the work and all, and we eat hearty, but was about all homegrown. And he'd leave work for both Ward and I to do during the day. Well, as long as we could hear that anvil, that old hammer hitting on the anvil, we knew he was still there. Well, then when it stopped, we got to work in a hurry. And when he came up, we'd be working, or at least working at it anyhow. And the old mill was right close there, and that was a fascination for me. It had a water wheel on it. And when that old water wheel was turning, I wanted to be there. There was a window right up at the top of it. And I would look out this window right on the top of the water wheel. Well, as soon as he went to the shop and all, I'd go on down and sit up there in that window, and time was no element. It just gone before you knew it. And the first thing I know, that big arm got me right by the shoulder here of the arm, and the old paddle hit the other end. But I knew what he meant. But the next day I was back, fascinated with it. And he was 89 when he died. And Mom lived to be almost 99. So I hope I've got a lot to go with. Yeah. Hope so. My dad had a fiddle. He played some. He had a Stainer fiddle, a really old one, nice fiddle. And I never did hear him play much, but I never did hear him. But some of them said that at times he and Mom played in church. She played the little reed organ, and he played violin. At that time it probably was on his Stainer, good fiddle. But I never did hear him play much. Of course, there wasn't that much of an influence in that. He loved the music. And back when we was real small, we had a little old Atwater Kent radio, and we'd get Renfrew Valley Barn Dance on Saturday night, and boy, there was nothing else but that on Saturday night as long as they stayed on. And they had beautiful music, and he really liked it. But I never did hear him play much. But I guess he was influential in me. Of course, I never learned it like they did, but influence, I guess. The radio we had then, when they got another one, they had their own speaker in it, and the big old horn speaker that was with the old Atwater Kent. Well, I got me some wire and went into the back of the radio down there and wired it into there, and I bored a hole in the floor upstairs and run that speaker up there next to my bed. When they make me go to bed, I can still listen to it. It just come through just about the right level. And we listened to either Nashville or Renfrew Valley Barn Dance, some of them they had, and every Saturday night, and I just loved it, live for it.
I guess all of us musicians that play by ear must have very good memories, maybe photographic memories, I'm not sure, but we learn these songs and they stick there, and when they're needed, we're able to come up with them and do them. I don't know how big Wayne's repertoire is. I know it's large. He plays old songs from hundreds of years old, probably came from Ireland, some of them, and Scotland. And usually when you ask him for a song, he can usually do it. So I know it's large, but I've never heard the exact number.
When I went to college in Shepherdstown, I bought me a little old cheap guitar down there, and when they'd have the fire cookouts and all, I'd serenade them with the guitar, and a lot of them would sing, you know. I played guitar for them. In my yearbook is a lot of references to my guitar. I liked music and was learning a little bit. And then there was a fella in the neighborhood out here, was a very good buddy of mine in school, Wayne Funkhauser. And he was influential in any kind of string music, bluegrass or country and everything. He knew every band in the country around and every player that played in it. Well, every Saturday night about, he would have something going on out to his house, and I had a standing invitation. Well, sometimes he'd come around and insist that I go out there. So I'd pick up my little mandolin and go out there. And I played with some of them and started learning some. And then I started on went to and ordered me an old Sears Roebuck fiddle. Down to, I give $69 and something for it, a mail order, and I was offered $300 for it one time, but it was a pretty good old fiddle. And I had some fella out there at Wayne's to set it up, you know, the bridge and everything on it, set it up, and it sounded pretty good. So then I started on the fiddle and finally learned to play a little bit. Anything going on music-wise, Wayne Strawderman was there. And he was a better influence on me in music and stuff than any one person that I know of. We liked all kinds of bands, and he knew all of them. We'd go over to Elkton, and you'd drive out there to an old filling station. There was a band playing music. He knew them all. We'd go to Winchester, down in there anywhere. He'd find somebody somewhere. And he, like myself, every time there's somebody around, the women, he always was hugging the women. Well, I stood back for a long time. Then I started hugging them too. And down at Winchester, we went down there one time, and it was a whole entirely new group that was playing down there. And they had a young girl there that was playing guitar and singing or whatever. And Wayne told me, he says, I'm going over and hug that girl. Well, I said, well, you better be careful what you're doing. I don't know her, but I know her daddy. So he went over, and he come back and introduced to her, and I got to hug her too, because he knew her daddy. But that's the kind of thing that nothing involved in it at all. It was just good, clean home fellowship. That's what I liked about the music. But Wayne was very influential on anybody who played music. He'd come over and get me on a Sunday after church, and he said, let's go drive around. And we'd drive around somewhere, and he would drive to some place where somebody was playing music. And he never failed. He knew them all, from Winchester through to anywhere you want to think of it. He knew them all. And I went with him all the time about, and was out there at his house pretty nearly every Saturday night. And I had a lot of people who could have taught me if I wouldn't been too dumb to learn. But I learned a little bit in music, but I liked every bit of it. You know, when I go out to a bluegrass show or something around somewhere, and the first thing you know, I catch myself looking around out there, and here find out I'm looking for Wayne Strawderman. But he died years ago, but I still miss that man. I never really joined the group until in the late 70s, 79 I believe it was. We joined a group called the Green Tree Echoes. And we had a pretty good little band. Incidentally, I listened to a tape that made in 1979 of that band playing and we had some pretty good music. Then we formed the Country Echoes. And that's the band we stayed with for 20 some years. There was Junior and Wanda Mathias. Brother Austin played the banjo, and Chet Smith out at Crider's, he played the guitar. Wanda played the bass, and Junior had harmonics and accordion. That whole group stayed together for at least 20 years. So Austin got sick, he couldn't play, and Chet got sick, he couldn't play. So we'd pick up somebody to help us over at Treasure Mountain Festival. Paul Andes has helped, Robert Reedy has helped, and good old Ralph Hill, he's helped.
He's willing to help at any time, old folks' homes or other functions. We've played together at the Ragtime County Fair, I guess, for probably 4, 5, or 6 years consecutively, and with various groups. Wayne enjoys playing music. I think anytime there's an opportunity, he always makes himself available and always has a good time. And he has a super nice personality, and people like him. He's friendly.
One that had pretty much died out, but Cub Miller used to play it, and I just loved it. And then some of the others, when we played out in Wayne's, was called Maple Sugar. Well, I come to find out there was 3 different songs. There was Maple Sugar Sweetheart, and Maple Sugar Time. And each one was just a little bit different. So you can mix them all up and play it in Maple Sugar, and nobody knew the difference. Well, that's pretty much what I did. Just more than anything else, I said, well, give me Maple Sugar. So I'll try that.
There's one thing he enjoys doing is when someone has played a song, not himself, but somebody else, he always says, that's a little bit better than perfect. Willing to play anywhere, anytime, I think. And I've been with various groups through the years, and anytime I needed Wayne and called him, he's always came. Always gladly came and helped me out or helped other groups out.
One night I was playing, and the bridge on my fiddle just flopped down and made a big crack. Everybody thought somebody got shot.
I met Wayne 12 years ago at the old Mathias High School, where we were having a jam session. A number of people were there, musicians and friends. And later on, when that closed down, we moved up to Trout Pond store, and I got to know him quite a bit better there than I'm not sure I'll get it all together, but he plays a medley, and he usually starts it out with Ragtime Annie, and he'll go from that into Silver Bells, and from that probably into Mississippi Sawyer, and after that might go into Home Sweet Home, and then he'll end up again with Ragtime Annie.
I'll call it Ragtime Annie, and some Raggedy Ann, and some other things which I won't mention. We got to play in there every, whenever they could get it. So then we established the 4th Saturday night. And then we got groups, not groups, but individuals coming around for Trout Pond Pickers. And we got groups and they come every fourth Saturday night, and we've been doing it for years now. It's been 4 or 5 years. And other groups, people come from everywhere. We had people come from Hagerstown and Pennsylvania, all around in Virginia and Edinburgh, and all come over there to play, and they liked it and come back.
When we're there together, no one knows exactly what we're going to play. I mean, we usually play each time basically the same songs, but we don't know when we're going to play them or who's going to play them necessarily, or what key they're in. So the little thing we have for the key, I'm hard of hearing, so is Wayne, so is some of the others. And so instead of saying key of G, because G, C, D, E, B all sound alike to us people that are deaf, almost deaf. So we say G as in frog, D as in Fred. We take the last letter of the word rather than the first letter.
I miss you, darling, more and more every day, as heaven would miss the stars above. With every heartbeat I still think of you and remember our faded love.
We played at Trout Pond store for a number of years without having a name. And then we decided that we ought to have a name, so we named ourselves the Trout Pond Pickers. But we're not a house band. We allow anybody that wants to play to come and join us. And we try to be fair and give everybody a chance to show their talent. We sort of go around the circle with each person has their choice. Wayne is the leader of the Trout Pond group, and he has such a good personality, but everybody likes him and nobody ever gets offended at him. I've never seen anybody offended at him in 12 years' time. They all like the way he does and enjoy playing with him. He draws musicians to him.
And good home fellowship in their music. That's what any group that I've ever been into is more good home fellowship as much as the music. We all play it for a good time. I'm not professionals. Make mistakes and laugh and make some more of them, but enjoy the music, enjoy trying. It's great. When it gets into your system, a whole lot can go by on it, and it's wonderful. It's In playing a musical instrument, you know, it makes me sick. Some of these young fellows that get out here and they take 2 or 3 lessons on the Suzuki or something like that, and they come back and they make me look sick in playing the fiddle. I mean, they can really do it. But that's the art in any music, is to start young. And if you can keep your interest in it, then they make great musicians. And if they stay with it, man, oh man, they're musicians. There's where it starts. Young and stay with it while they can get it. But that's one of the things about music. I was too old when I started and too dumb when I was learning. So I've got a long ways to go. Any band you play with, or any song that you play, if the rhythm isn't right, the lead instrument is gone. Like the Orange Blossom Special, 99% of the Orange Blossom Special played well is the rhythm of it. Not the fellow playing it, it's the rhythm that goes with it. Music has been the most important thing, I guess, in my life, where I can enjoy. Of course, hard work and raising family had a lot to do with it too. But I believe music was the highlights of my life. I hope the good Lord will take me up and give me lots of music when the time is up. And wonder if God loves country music. And I'm sure that He does.